YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with the power rankings of Week 16 of the NFL. Only 2 more weeks left in no playoffs. Can't wait. We'll have you covered fully for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs and the offseason NFL draft and free agency coverage, of course. So subscribe if you're new. You much appreciate. Smash that like button, turn notifications on. Follow that Twitter. It's an absolute must follow. You're missing out on a lot of NFL talk on there, talking during every live game. So check it out. Instagram, podcast, Patreon, links down below for those as well as a sided app. Pretty cool app. We have a page on there. We post polls. You debate football. You earn points, win Amazon gift cards. Check it out. Link down below. That Patreon is bonus content, all kinds of it every week. Junior score predictions, my bets of the week for NFL, college football. Taking a look at some bowl games there. Bowl season. Gotta love it. Updated playoff predictions, a lot more. There's a lot going on there. Check it out. Link down below. Power rank. Look at this. The Jets are no longer number 32. They got a win over the Rams, so they'll be moving up to 31. A lot of movement there. Jags just continue that losing streak. They're in position for Trevor Lawrence. We had a recent mock draft. You can check that out. But the Jets, they look pretty good against the Rams. You know, people are trying to figure out how the Rams lost. Blaming Goff, and sure, he deserves some blame. He didn't play that terrible. I didn't like the play calling at the very end. Fourth and four shot. Didn't like it. But what I'm getting at, the Jets just outplayed them. They look like a pretty good team there. So they're number 31. Didn't think that was going to happen. Didn't think it was going to happen once. The Bengals at 30. Well, the interesting thing is that I think going into the year I had Jags 32, Jets 31. So we're back to where we started before the season. Bengals beat the Steelers. They upset the Steelers. They played really well. They came to play. You know, they played mean, nasty football in a good way. You know, nothing cheap or anything like that, obviously. They played really well. Credit to Zach Taylor and that staff, the defensive staff too. You know, they had the right game plan. Read option at Ryan Finley. Who would have thought? Couldn't really move them up. You know, a team like Panthers who are pretty bad right now. You know, I couldn't really move up the Bengals. And I think the Panthers moved down from last week. Actually, the graphics guy messed that up. They should have a down arrow there, but that's all right. Yeah, you know, the Bengals still the way they sit, the way their team sits. Yeah, I still feel like they're 30, but if they get another win, you know, again this week, they're definitely moving up. But yeah, that was an impressive game. They look good. I keep forgetting Trey Waynes is about to be coming back to that secondary. They're going to be pretty good. You know, Jesse Bates, I think, is the best safety in football this year. Mackenzie Alexander looked really good during that game. Darius Phillips looked good. William Jackson, you know, they got Von Bell. You know, they got a group there. They got a group. Team of the future. The Falcons moved down a spot to number 28. They should be better in this, but they keep choking games away and blowing games and playing so poorly in the second half. You know, that they're going to be down here. They're going to move down to 28, down one spot. Just unfortunate. We'll see what they do in the offseason. Definitely a team that we're all curious about what they do in the offseason for sure. Texans down 2 spots. Same thing, you know. I don't know if they have as much talent as the Falcons. You know, they got Deshaun Watson, though. You know, they got Deshaun Watson. You know, I like Will Fuller, but he's been out. But, you know, better. They should be better in 27, but they're just not. They keep blowing games, you know, losing games that they should be in, or, you know, and they're still kind of hanging on to that Bears blowout a week ago, which isn't good. So, tacking on another blown loss, that'll move you down. 26, the Lions down 2 spots. You know, yeah, not too surprising here. Another team that we're going to be curious to see what they do in the offseason. May have to go rebuild mode. We're curious to see who they decide to coach is, who the new GM is, but they made the right moves there. It's just they may have a ways to go to get, you know, to be in that winning mode. But who knows? Maybe they can get a quick retool around Matt Stafford. 25, the Niners. It's weird seeing the Niners down here, down 2 spots, 25. They are one of the more injured teams in the year. A lot of teams are hurt, though. But at the same time, I think a lot of people were thinking the Niners were going to make a push, maybe make the playoffs. So, yeah, which one is it? They are pretty beat up. But, yeah, not a good game against the Cowboys. Giving up 41 points, turning the ball over like crazy. Not good. So, yeah, they're down 2 spots. A couple of disappointing losses for them. Cowboys, speaking of the Cowboys, how about them Cowboys? They're up 4 spots. They're not in the bottom tier anymore. Pretty good game against the Niners. You know, defensively they end up, you know, giving up a lot of points, but early in that game they're playmakers. You know, they're taking the ball away, and that's what they did in the Bengals game and forced a big win against them. You know, and then they do that to the Niners, and they score 41 points. So that was a pretty impressive game. They're up 4 spots at 24. I don't know if I'm starting to think they're like a good team or anything, but they're fighting for the NFC East, and they're on the rise. The Broncos down 2 spots. Yeah, they kind of an embarrassing loss to the Bills. It is the Bills, though, a very good team, but prime time Saturday, not the best showing there. They were missing a lot of corners, which seemed to be a big problem for them for most of the year, really. But, they'll be down 2 spots here at 23 after that display. 22, the Chargers up 4 spots. Another team that's more talented, I think, than number 22. But because of all their losses, because of their disappointing losses, it's tough to be higher than this. But they did move up 4 spots. That's an impressive win against the Raiders. Impressive showing for that offense of Justin Herbert. I like the play calling as well for the most part that game. Fourth quarter, 1 pass attempt's not good for Justin Herbert. But, impressive. They're pretty beat up at receiver. Next guy up, they make him look good. It's a pretty big win against the Raiders there. It's a little too late, but they still show that they can be a dangerous team. They got some talent there, and they got a franchise piece in Justin Herbert. 21, the Eagles down 1 spot. Good game, a tough game against the Cardinals. They started off really sloppy, and they had a couple of chances at the end, but the Eagles team's pretty talented. I couldn't move them down a whole bunch, and I think they're pretty talented, especially with Jalen Hurts in there. They can make plays. It's tough that, where they're at record-wise because it's a talented team. I couldn't move them down too much. That's a good game against the Cardinals. They're still hanging on that win against the Saints, and they play the Cowboys this week. I expect them to win. Spoiler on the picks there, I guess. But who knows? Who knows? The Cowboys are getting better. 20, the Giants are down 1 spot. Disappointing outing against the Browns. I think defense did their part. They didn't play a good or like great or anything. Kind of did their part. The offense moved the ball to midfield or just past midfield like very easily. Early they moved it into the red zone easily. 6 points is weird. They moved the ball well enough to have 20 plus points that and the Browns scored 20. So it's a little disappointing, but and they had Colt McCoy in. So I guess it's an excuse, a legitimate excuse. But yeah, they could push the ball, but go get the points, I know it's a tough game, but down 1 spot, couldn't move them down too much there at all. Patriots eliminated from the playoffs. It's pretty wild. They're down a spot. Thought they could have won that game against the Dolphins. They had the right game plan. They had the Dolphins held to 0 points. They made some mistakes, and Gilmore getting hurt in the second half, so it was kind of a tough blow there, but they couldn't put the ball in the end zone, so that'll do it. But they did play a tough defense, so they're gonna move down a spot. I don't expect too much more from them going forward, being out of the playoffs. Vikings down a spot as well. Disappointing loss against the Bears. What a disappointing defensive performance. I know they probably had like 3 or 4 starters out there, but it's still just extremely disappointing. Their offense did the part, there in that game. It's weird that their offense, this is probably one of the better years for their offense in years, but this is probably one of their worst years in years. The defense is just not good. So that's rough. In the second half of the season, they did play pretty well overall, but coming off that loss, it's 2 in a row now, so they'll be down to 18. The Bears are up 5 spots. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They just beat the Vikings. It's a big time win. Offense continue to put up points for them, so they're streaking a little bit. 2 games. They had a scheme change on offense, so it's really throwing teams off. So let's see if they can keep grinding here. That'll be something. Definitely a team trying to get in the playoffs. So up 5 spots, number 17. 16, the Raiders are going to stay put. It's like another week where, the Raiders keep losing, but it's just hard to move them down because I just don't feel the teams below them should be ahead of them. I think they've proven the better team, but if they continue to lose here, you got the Dolphins this week, then might have to move down. But they're at 16 for now. Washington's down a spot. Didn't have their starting quarterback. Almost fought back against the Seattle Seahawks, so can't punish them too much. They're deserving to be ahead of some of these teams here. So they're at 15. They're fighting for the NFC East spot. They're in the lead for it right as we speak here. Let's see if they can hang on. Cardinals up 1 spot. It's an impressive win against the Eagles. They put up more points than I expected them to. They made plays in the right moment. So that's a good win. You're going to see these teams up here. We're starting to get into the top teams, so it's hard to move up when we're in this range. So 1 spot's actually a lot. Even though it's 1, it kind of feels like a lot. So the Cardinals are trending back in the right direction. That's good to see. They feel like a playoff team again for sure. It's got to be more consistent. Dolphins are going to stay put at 13. It's a good win against the Patriots. It could be a matchup problem against the Patriots, and they found a way to win. So that's good. There's not a lot of room to move up with some of these other teams. Buccaneers at 12. That might be a good win in terms of momentum, giving them a boost, that fire, because they came back. They really came back, and Tom Brady against the Falcons came back once again. And the offense looked good. The defense stepped up down the stretch, so that can do wonders for them. I'm still a little iffy on them right now. I thought I would be much higher on them at this point of the season than I am, but again, that can give them that boost, and that can get a game like that and can get them where I thought they could be. But they still have their moments where the offense is quiet, real quiet, and the defense, it's a good defense, but it's not extremely consistent. But again, it's a good momentum win. Just really not much room to move them up. Rams are down 7 spots. I've liked the Rams, but you lose to the Jets, you're going to move down quite a bit. But on top of that, it just feels like the Rams keep doing this. They finally started to get, earlier in the year it was kind of like win, loss, maybe not exactly, but in that area where they impress so much and they disappoint so much. And then they started kind of get on the right track where I can finally trust them. Like I finally could trust the Rams, and they just blow it. They just get outplayed to the Jets. I almost rather they make a lot of mistakes. I don't know what I would rather have. They make a lot of mistakes, and that's the reason they lost. It was kind of a fluky thing. They made a lot of mistakes, but they didn't really make that many mistakes. Goff had I guess they had a blocked punt, and early on I guess they had a couple mistakes in a row. So I guess that'll do it. But really, it just felt like they got outplayed. It makes me, my point, what I'm getting to, it makes me wonder and worry a little more because they kind of just got outplayed, and mainly in the trenches, offensive line, Jets O-line versus Rams D-line, which is quite surprising. And then the Jets D-line versus the Rams O-line, which isn't that surprising looking at it on paper, but the Rams offensive line's been impressive recently. So that's concerning. You're going to see better teams in the trenches, and those are key, important pieces, units in the playoff time. So it's pretty concerning, actually. I would almost rather have just a fluky, Goff just threw 3 picks or something, believe it or not. Most people probably disagree, but my point is it brings up some concern. Are they going to get dominated in the trenches and then just lose games to teams that are better in those categories, maybe not better anywhere else? So we'll see. Down 7 spots. It's weird seeing the Steelers down here, down 4 spots. They drop another one. And I thought about actually Rams out of the Steelers. It was a tough one. Just that loss to the Jets, but loss to the Bengals isn't too far off, especially because they had Ryan Finley. I guess they had the game plan factor. Steelers didn't game plan for a read option or anything like that, but there's no excuses. They should win that game. They should definitely win that game. That offense is a mess. Big Ben's a mess. That's a game on him. He didn't see guys wide open. He didn't hit them wide open. Couldn't get the ball far enough. I didn't like the way they ran. Benny Snell had a couple good runs. They had a couple really bad runs. I wish. I don't mind the play calling. People rip the play calling of Randy Fichtner, but there's nothing wrong with the play calling. I wish he would use Anthony McFarland more. That's my knock on him. They need that speed, that boost, that home run ability. That's kind of my knock there. They're just so, there's one-dimensional teams where they can only pass compared to run, or the opposite. And then there's the Steelers where they're just so specifically one-dimensional. Like, it's less than one-dimensional, where they can't throw the deep ball, they can't run the ball, they only can throw quick passes. So it's a very hard job for the team, but, the play caller as well. So they're in trouble right now. They're in trouble. So they're down 4 spots, number 10. They were at 1 for a lot of the season because they were undefeated. Teams are kind of just figuring out. The Bengals just game plan for them very well. Tighten coverage. They make them go deep, make them run the ball. We don't have to stack the box because they don't know how to run the ball. We don't need to play off because they can't throw deep. We're going to man coverage. We're going to press them. We're going to force them to throw that small ball, but we're going to be there to break it up. It's exactly the Bengals game plan, and a lot of teams are doing that at the Steelers right now because they're so specifically one-dimensional. It's wild. You got a game against the Colts this week. It's a big game. Seahawks up 2 spots. They dominated early in that Washington game, so that was looking good, but then they kind of let them come back, and it was kind of odd how they let them come back. And then they had a turnover in there. I wish they would have gave the ball to Hyde a little more maybe. It's just kind of it was a weird one, trying to figure out how they let Washington back. That's like a little concerning. Usually you can kind of pinpoint it, and then you can kind of break that down, like how do we figure that out? But it was a little odd there. I wish they would just put the game away. But I guess Washington was playing some defense, and they were starting to move the ball, I suppose. But they're up 2 spots there to number 9. See if the Seahawks can stay consistent. Now they're going to play the Rams, 9 versus 11 there. Colts are up 1 spot. not really thrilled about their game against the Texans, but they're up one spot because they move ahead of two teams, but that means somebody else moved ahead of them. I was thrilled with them on the Raiders game, but the Texans game, they're dominant right off the bat, 14-0. I'm like, yeah, here's the Colts that I saw last week. This team's going to dominate Texans. They kind of let them back in the game. They're pretty fortunate it didn't get tied up there at the end. So Deshaun Watson started to get rolling against them too. So I'm not really thrilled with them off that game, but the second half of the season, their offense is picking it up, and I do like their offense a lot more than the first half of the year. So they do feel like a playoff team. Earlier in the year, halfway through, kind of like, is this a playoff team? They do feel like a playoff team now. Just a little concerning sometimes to let a team like Texans back in. They kind of rely on, some Darius Leonard punching the ball out. Can't really do that in the playoffs. But, big game against Steelers this week. They're number 8, so they're in the top tier of teams. 7's the Ravens. I moved the Ravens up 3 spots. Feels like they're back. I kind of talked about it going into the Cowboys game. I feel like this team's going to get back. I got that feeling after the Steelers game when all the backups were in. They were running more plays that were, similar to last year where they were a dominant offense. Just a lot of straightforward running, with RG3, a lot of power blocking, back to normal, with the plays where teams can predict them coming, but they're just so hard to stop still. And then they go in the Cowboys game with Lamar Jackson back. They run those plays. They look good. You get the Browns game. They had an elite offensive performance because they run those types of plays, the schemes, I should say. So they're back on track like I expected. This offense is dangerous again. I know they played the Jaguars, still an impressive performance, but I kind of just get the feeling that they're back on track, and it's a scary team once again. So I moved them up to number 7, 3 spots. 6, the Saints go down 1 spot. They lost to the Chiefs. It is 2 in a row, though. The Eagles' loss is tough. But I only moved them down 1 spot. I didn't feel the need to move them below the Ravens, Colts, Seahawks, teams like that. It's odd because I like this defense. It's one of the better defenses in football, and they played a good game against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs still scored 32 points. So I don't really know what to make of that. It is the Chiefs. I guess that's more credit to the Chiefs. But you played a really good game, and the team scored 32. I just don't think other teams would score 32 in that scenario. So I do like the defense, and the offense could get back on track. I mean, it's almost positive. There were negative things within the game, but they're almost positives for going forward because, Drew Brees started off with an interception. He may have been fortunate he didn't throw 2 kind of early, and he started off 0 for 6 around there. Pretty much a disaster. Receivers running bad routes, not catching the ball. Disaster, but they still scored a good amount of points, put up a fight against the Chiefs. So that's kind of good, kind of going forward there. Drew Brees kind of knocking the rust off. They're going to play the Vikings on Christmas. We know they're going to be the heavy favorites. It is Christmas, though, so I guess, just got to go out there and play and try to win that game there to not go a 3-game losing streak. But yeah, I couldn't move them. I take away some positives there. I mean, overall 2-game losing streak's negative, but I couldn't move them down any more than that. 5's the Browns are up 2 spots. Giants game's a weird one because the final score and kind of the final feeling of the game, that's good. Giants were kind of getting better. It's a good defense. We held them to 6 points. If you're the Browns, you're saying. So it's overall good. The Giants were able to move the ball though, easily. I don't know what happened in the red zone or in that territory. I guess you can credit the Browns for clutching up, in the red zone, things like that. It might have been the Giants' fault with their play calling, play decisions, Colt McCoy, So I don't know. I think you can move the ball on the Browns. I think the Browns would have scored more points if they needed to, so I wasn't too worried. But overall, late in the year here, the Browns are ripping, and it's a valuable win still. So that's why they're up 2 spots, number 5. So it's good to see them get back on track. I think they got the Jets this week, so who knows? Sneaky team, apparently. Titans are up 4 spots, number 4. They beat the Lions. They beat them up pretty good. I love this offense. It's the best offense of football right now that they just had to move within the top 5 for me. I think, looking at their run and pass game, it's rare to have that good of a run and pass game. It's really rare. So, yeah, this team's offense, I like it a lot. I wish their defense was as good as it was supposed to be. They got some big names out there, so they just can't get a pass rush. But, yeah, that offense is scary good right now. So I got them at number 4 there, moving up 4 spots. And really, as soon as we heard Stafford was playing, we knew this. The Lions got really good offense. This could be a close game. This could be a trap game for the Titans, and they end up just dominating them. So it's still an impressive win there for sure. And the top 3 is going to stay the same. Packers had a little bit of a scare against the Panthers. They dominated early. I wish they would put the team away there, but they got the job done there. It's a Saturday game, prime time, so they got the job done. Look here, 3 versus 4 this week. I can't wait for that game. That feels like the game of the year. Packers-Titans, it feels like the game of the year. Hopefully it lives up to the hype there. Everyone talking about the Packers in the cold at Lambeau. Yeah, it's a scary team. You don't want to play Aaron Rodgers cold, but Derrick Henry in the cold, at the end of the season where he always dominates, this is the matchup right here. I can't wait for this. It should be a shootout, 3 versus 4, a lot on the line here. Man, this is the game of the year. This is, leading up to it, this is the game of the year in my opinion. Bills at 2, remaining at 2. They're looking really good right now. The downside, the one downside is they don't really have much of a run game. They don't have much of a run game. So that's a negative thing. The Titans are so good on offense because they have this run game that helps their pass game, but the pass game is almost equally as good, which is impressive. But the Bills, that's how good Josh Allen and the play calling and these weapons are, that they can overcome that. Teams know how to game plan for them, but they still can't stop them. The defense is getting better. We talked about this weeks and weeks ago. I had them as the top defense going into the year. I felt like an idiot. They started off the year, written pretty poorly, but they're getting there now. This defense looking good. They make plays. They're getting more pressure now. A lot of these guys are playing better than they were earlier in the year. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Tremaine Edmonds, all these guys are playing better. Across the D-line as well. So it's not just their offense. So I like where the Bills are headed. Chiefs win another road game against another tough team. The Saints played a good defensive game against them, and the Chiefs still scored 32 points. I think they were a little sloppy at times, the Chiefs' offensive line and Mahomes with the ball sometimes. They still scored 32 points. It's a dangerous, dangerous team, and we know that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down. Doesn't seem to be as serious as we once thought, but it's still not good because even though he doesn't get the ball a lot, he doesn't do a whole bunch, he actually does more just by being there because he spreads out the field. So, and they won without him last year, but Damian Williams is a pretty good. Damian Williams did the same thing. He wasn't doing a whole lot in regular season, but he kind of spread the field out a bit, and then we saw that he make the impact in the playoffs. He obviously opted out this year, so they'll miss Edwards-Helaire. I still think they're probably the best team, but it's more of a hit than I think most people think. But that's our power rankings heading into Week 16. We got a couple more weeks to shake things up. We'll have power rankings for just the playoff teams once we get in there. Once we have the playoff teams set, we'll talk about how they can win the Super Bowl, how they can make a run, how they can't, what's their weak strengths and weaknesses. I love that type of content that we do here. So hopefully you can join us for that. We got all kinds of videos just getting pumped out right now. We got a mock draft that just went up. We got the Week 16 coverage. A lot going on. I'm going to have some my favorite bowl games and obviously the playoff games, score predictions for those coming up too here on the 22nd. So excited about all that. A lot of good football coming up. This is the best time of year right here. So hopefully you can stick with us for that coverage. Smash that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.